in that case, we're ready for, well, just got us ready. So 4 deputations, which we're now waiting for our deputant to come in. They probably can see and hear us anyway. But... Yeah. Yeah. Good. G'day, Heather, are you there?
What's she got?
Yeah.
Stand there. Can you get
Well, the mic's muted,
that mic muted?
but it's not showing her camera either, so that'll be up to her to. She'll unmute it.
Oh, these guys. Oh, all right.
You got it, Heather?
I think so. I could hear you and I could see you, just you couldn't see me.
Oh, there you go. All right. So yeah, deputations 4.1, Dr. Heather Holmes-Ross via Zoom. Over to you.
Good evening, councillors and Mayor Valentine. Where are the rest of you? Is that it?
This is us.
We got one, but this is 7 normally. Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. I've got me and 12 more. Anyway, thank you very much for allowing me to speak. I'm Heather Holmes-Ross. I'm Mayor at the City of Mitcham, and I'm here to talk about the LGA election of President. And I'm not sure. I think that this is on your agenda for this evening, but if it's not, if you can just kind of hold the vibe for another month, that would be super. So I think in the last month that I've contacted most of you asking for feedback from on the LGA, and I've had some feedback from a few councillors and most mayors. And from that, I've written up some stuff. There's information about me on my nomination form, and I've also written to you again, telling you a little bit more about me and my wants and hopes and dreams for the LGA. So I don't want to repeat all that tonight. The reason that I've come here is to introduce myself, to give you an idea of who I am and what's important to me. I'm talking a little bit about why I stood for mayor in the first place. And then I'm hoping by extension that you can judge whether you think that I would have the attributes to make an okay LGA president or even a good one. So I'd like to start by talking to you about my journey to becoming mayor. I came from a background in science and small business. I was working as a research scientist at Flinders Uni when I met my second husband. And he was the executive chef at Qantas, and he was keen to have his own business. So we had this crazy sea change. I don't know where it came from. And we gave up our jobs and purchased a cafe in Blackwood. And we changed it into a cafe restaurant, and we called it the Artisan Cafe, and we were running it along sustainable and ethical lines, showcasing local produce, local wines, doing everything traditional processes, crafted from scratch, and doing what we call circular economy before those words even existed. And while I was doing that, I got to know the other business owners in the area, and I started a Shop Local campaign. And we were trying to showcase the unique things that we have in our area. And I went to there was 55 businesses on board, and I went to council and I asked them for in-principle support, and I asked them for a person to liaise with. We wanted to close off roads and hold markets, and I just wanted someone in council to help me with that, and asked for $500. And they said, no, no, and no. And I was so cross. I was like, I'm so cross, I'm just going to run for mayor. And so I did. And I never thought I'd win. But when I ran that campaign, my tagline was "Together we can be better." And the idea was that if council works with the community and with the businesses, and I've got 2 universities in my patch, with the universities, with the schools, if we're all working together with all those inputs, we're going to get far greater outputs. And so that was my idea. And then I had 3 main campaign platforms. One of them was the environment and addressing climate change, and that's really important where I come from, like for my constituents. The economy, so stimulating in particular the local economy, and looking in particular for alternates, income streams for council. And I suppose the most important ones were I wanted to have a yes council. So that meant a council with a default position of like, how can we help that happen, and not no, we're not going to do that. It's too risky. So then I won this election. No one was more surprised than me. I cried into my pillow. I was like, what have I done? And then I did what you do and just got on with the job. And so part of my environmental thing on this campaign was this idea that Mitcham should become the first 100% solar-powered city, right? So it took a while to get things moving, as you might think, but eventually Mitcham, we went to tender to find a collaboration partner to allow people to have solar and batteries, like so residents and businesses, with a no upfront cost option. And what we did was do all the homework and de-risk this program for our councils, our residents and our council. And this program's been really popular in Mitcham, with almost 1,000 of our 30,000 homes signing up. And our residents have saved over $3 million on their bills in the last 2 years. And they're also making money from their virtual power plant. We have a Mitcham-only virtual power plant. So Charles Sturt, Marion Unley and Campbelltown have now replicated that scheme, which is pretty gratifying for me and my council. And I'd be super happy to brief you sometime on this if you're interested, because I do think that it's something that can roll out. But for now, the next part of my story is our most recent electricity tender, and that's the tender for city operations and our civic buildings and our club rooms. And in Mitcham, that costs us about $1.7 million each year. So what we did was went out with Murray Bridge to see if we could get a price for a smaller volume. So rather than joining the usual LGA aggregated model, we went out with a requirement of just under 5 gigawatts. And the outcome of that process was that Murray Bridge are saving around $350,000 a year for the next 10 years, not taking into account any increases in CPI or electricity costs. And they're using 100% wind power. Mitcham, we're going to spend some money. We're going to spend about $2 million covering our council assets in batteries and solar panels and batteries. And then we're set to save $10 million over the next 10 years. And Charles Sturt have also signed up to wind, and they're looking at about $700,000 per year for 10 years, and they're not investing any money. So I suppose the idea certainly has merit. You can see that, but my question is, how do we ensure access for other councils? So to do this, we onboarded a heap of talent to get us to this position. And many other councils they won't not have, that kind of expertise. And I suppose I think this is a classic example of where the LGA could play a role. I think that the transition to renewables has countless opportunities, and we might not even know what they are yet. But the LGA is really well placed to take these, good ideas from around the sector, not only with renewables, with whatever, and help roll them out across the sector. I think there's also a need for facilitation of discussions. This is the idea of the yes, between members with common concerns. And I think that perhaps we have to stop acting only within our regional groupings and start acting outside of those if there's issues in common. And some of those examples are bushfires, behavioural standards, the Adelaide Freight bypass, childcare deserts. There's loads of issues that people have in common that I think that we would be better placed dealing with, depending on whether they affect us or not. There are excellent solutions happening across the sector, but it's really actually quite difficult to share what's going on. We should be sharing because we keep reinventing the wheel. And the LGA is, I think, the perfect facilitator. So the same things that were important to me during the mayoral campaign, what motivated me to stand for president, the environmental sustainability bit, financial sustainability, which I think is the biggest issue of the sector, and we need to be thinking of really creative ways to decrease our costs, but also ways at which we can supplement our income. And this saying yes, and particularly to working together for looking for new possibilities. I think, as I said before, we need to be facilitating conversations in areas of interest. And I think we need to be really strategic with our research and development fund. I think there's a huge opportunity there that we're perhaps wasting by not targeting where we spend our research and development money within the LGA. So this is really corny. Together, I think that we can make the sector really, really strong, and I invite you to come along for the ride. I'm really sorry about that, but I had to end on something. So thank you for having me. I'm very, very happy to answer questions if you have any. And I think I've come in under time.
You have come in under time.
Oh, go me.
Yeah, go you. Do you guys have any questions?
I'll just got the one.
Yeah.
Missing out on the government funding for the road stuff now, and I think it's time that LGA got together and said, right, we're going to help all these rural people and all these councils who aren't getting their funding from the government. Like Albo says, we've got all this money we've saved, and he's not handing it to the council because we need it for our roads, and that's what breaking us. We can't get our roads fixed. We haven't got the money. I
think that you're 100% right. And as I've been going out and talking to, to various rural councillors and mayors, and this thing about the funding being totally the responsibility of council, and of delivering all this road infrastructure, when it's not. It's a shared responsibility. It's council, it's state, and it's federal. And I think there's a piece. Did you go to I don't know if any of you went to this, Ron did, to the sustainability conference forum that was held last week. And I think they were saying 12%, South Australia has 12% of the roads and gets about 7% of the national funding for roads. And I was like, well, why is our state government not fighting? So I think that we can't be going to them just saying, why aren't you fighting? I think we have to be going to them with solutions. But I really think that we need to be pushing state to argue for our fair share of funding, because when the roads aren't working, it's actually their constituents as well. It's not just local government constituents. And I know that it's really difficult because I have a ton of elected representatives that I can get to. Like I'm in Boothby, which is the most marginal federal seat, and I can talk to my MP anytime I want, which is one of the luxuries of living in the city. And I have 4 state MPs, and I can talk to them wherever I want. And so it's a very different setup from rurally or regionally. But we have these relationships, and I think that we need to be using them. We need to be pushing really hard, because roads is the issue of rural councils, and it should be so much more, and it can be so much more. But someone's got to fund these things. Is my rant? Yes.
Is your rant? Well, I think you and I ranted for quite a while the other day, so that's good. Anything else?
No.
All right. Thanks, Heather. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much for allowing me to come to your chamber. It's fantastic. Have a good night.
See ya. Bye.
See ya.
Cool. 5 petitions, there aren't any. 6 reports from committees, there aren't any. 7 mayoral update. So recommendation that council notes the content of this report, being that it's from me. Probably I would like to speak to 2 of them actually. 3 of them. First one was I went to the Advertiser Bush Summit on sustainability that was held down at McLaren Vale, run by the Advertiser. It just seemed to me pretty clear that the bush actually stops at about McLaren Vale or across the hills face. There really was nothing to do with rural, remote and bush councils. And I have to say that was really disappointing that was the case. The meeting with Joe Sockhart, Minister for Local Government, managed to get an hour with him, which was great. Did a bit of a presentation and went through our dilemmas, including a lot of factual things about 30% per capita funding minimum and various things that the state government could do. And I have to say, received a really appreciative thanks for you coming here. Want to be part, make sure you keep in contact with us, but basically no to everything. I've sent a clarification email saying, I wanted a clarification of what had been said, and I'm still waiting on that. I'm not sure that I'll get it because I've worded it pretty plainly to seek clarification. So that for me was pretty much the last step that we can go with the state government beyond elections. And I guess the last one was the sustainability webinar that she was talking about, that was coordinated through the LGA, which was the second one on from what we did in Hahndorf. That was very well represented. There was about 87 people online, which when you think there's 68 councils in South Australia, that's pretty good. Doesn't mean every council was represented, it wasn't. But it had an agenda that encompassed a whole bunch of things, and basically the whole meeting was spent on the Grants Commissioner going through his bit, and entirely around grant funding and the inadequacies of the system, the 30% minimum per capita funding arrangements that are wrong, meaning that councils that don't need any help are getting $24 million of grant funding, and they don't need any help, and we need more help, and we're not able to access that. And that the whole session was taken up on that, nothing more. And that was really pleasing to hear, and we spoke very clearly about, with a reasonably united voice, not unanimous, but people from metro councils were taking on board that we need help in rural councils, particularly the small ones, and that part of that is potentially them foregoing some of that funding. And it was made clear to me by the minister that the only way that would be considered is if there was a broad cost section, both of the council types, so metro, peri-urban and rural, but also in volume, and a majority, then government may consider what they could do with that, but that's the only way they consider it. From that meeting, I was reasonably hopeful that we might actually get somewhere with that. So that was pleasing. It's not the big picture fix that we need, but it's a help. But certainly having the metro councils understand that they can play a part in helping us get what we need, and that we are one community, was really encouraging. So that's, unless anyone's got any questions, that's certainly the points I wanted to make from that. So I'd ask for someone to move that recommendation. Thank you. Seconded. Trevor, any questions on any of that? No. Those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. 7.2 elected members reports. Does anyone have any reports they would like to put forward?
I went to an NRM information day where they're trying to start on their carbon credit spiel, and I basically think they've got no idea what the project is, how big it is, how true it is, etc., etc.
Okay.
So they've spent lots of money on something that could be well changed. Yeah.
So that was the landscape board.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Instead of spending money on what they should.
Lots of money.
Anyone else? Can I have a mover that we accept Trevor's report in? Luke, seconder, Campbell, all those in favour? Against? Carried, thank you. 8.1, Pestbird Pigeon Management. Phil Shiloh getting up from my role.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yellow highlights too.
Yep. I do. So this report has been presented to Seek Council to allow council to consider options for pest bird management plans. So you would all be familiar that at the August meeting of council, we had a deputation from the Pinnaroo Primary School where they discussed their issues with pigeon infestation at their site. They discussed the issues that were facing the school, the steps they've taken so far to control the pigeons, and what bird proofing activities they'd undertaken. They also identified the limitations and restrictions that are placed on them by the Department of Ed, which included, as I understood, no ability to trap, bait or shoot on Department of Education property. Just a little bit of background on pigeons, which I thought was interesting. So the feral pigeons are obviously a domesticated home pigeon descendant. They easily adapt to urban environments and a number of environments, and they can take up residence pretty much anywhere. They're capable of breeding throughout the year and do not migrate far from their birth places, making them very difficult to remove. And the feral pigeon is often poses a risk to health for residents if they're not careful. Under the landscape management and landscape SA pest or vermin classifications, they aren't a declared pest animal. And as they relayed to us, it's up to the landowner be that government, council or private, to control pigeons on their land, subject to any other legislative provisions, i.e. firearms and poisons. So yeah, essentially they are saying that it's the landowner's responsibility. With regards to that, under the Landscape Act, landholders have a responsibility to ensure that they take steps to reduce the impact of pest species and control numbers on their land. Additionally, with regards to legislation that these pest pigeons could fall under, there's also some facility to use the Local Nuisance and Litter Control Act of 2016 as well to help facilitate control. With regards to council's responsibilities, council's like any other landowner is responsible for pest species on the land that it controls, and including the public domain. But we don't have any responsibilities outside our own lands with regards to that. From a control perspective, I spoke to 3 different pest control options. The 2 pest control companies, for want of a better word, basically said that they'd need a couple of $1,000s to come down and do the assessment, which I've written in the report. And their solutions would be a multifaceted approach, which included trapping, shooting, baiting, roost control, and feed and water supply control. I also spoke to a local contract commercial shooter with relation to this issue. He said that they do deal with it on other sites. Their costs would include $160 per hour per contractor with a 2-hour minimum. But he also said that the implementation of this shooting is a short-term solution, and it's not a long-term viable solution because you're forever coming back to control the issue. So therefore, he would be recommending that you do other activities at the same time, which the 2 pest control companies identified. With regards to the Department for Education, we reached out to them to clarify their position, and we got an email back from one of their just bear with me, I'll check he's one of their asset managers, and basically said that what the Pinneroo Primary School told us in their deputation is accurate, that culling pigeons on school grounds is a no-no, and they can't facilitate that as part of any program that we implement. So therefore, council has, as I see it, or as administration said, the following 3 options: to resolve and grant an appropriate budget to develop a pest bird management plan, utilising a suitably qualified pest management company to help write the plan, which we brought back to council for implementation budget. I've got no recommendation provided on there. It is for council to determine what projects have priority. The administration can assist in the form of words to give effect to this concept. 2, resolve to grant an appropriate budget to engage and endorse a suitably qualified pest management specialist to undertake direct destruction of the pest species around Pinneroo, with the understanding that pest bird destruction on Department of Education land is not currently possible. And I'll let you read the rest of it. And number 3, decide not to take any further action in relation to this matter. And yeah, that's. I'll go to that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Mayor, can I just add just one thing to Shiloh's summary? In reaching out to the Education Department, as Shiloh said, they did confirm their policy position of no culling on site, and we did ask specifically whether there could be a consideration of a special dispensation. They said no, which is fine. Did also ask them, as Shiloh's got in his report here, whether or not they would contribute to the cost of whatever control option was if the council went down that track. Their response was that they will continue to spend quite a bit of money on their anti-roosting and other control measures on their site. So no, they doubted that they would be putting any money into a program that council may choose to put in place.
I know this is not the way to go, but I'm just going to ask a question without putting it on the table yet. So that was my 2 questions. What did they propose they would do for the problem on their property? If they won't cull and they won't support.
Are they going to net their property? Yeah.
Yep, go through the mayor. The response was the department will be focusing on pigeon management at the school, which includes proofing, extensive cleaning and any remediation for damage caused. The cost to complete these items and the ongoing management will be quite extensive. And as the deputation said last time in my meetings with them separately, yes, they have spent a lot of money already on doing those sorts of activities on site. But, you know, there is still more to be done.
I guess I'm
Yeah.
querying it from the point of view, we've got to try and make a decision about other constituents' money for the on-school, and you're thinking, well, if they're flat out saying they won't allow anyone else to remove them and they won't remove them themselves, but the school deputation was clearly saying the funding was coming out of their pool and they're exhausting their pool, and it's like, well, then from that, it's like, well, the education department's just got to continue to do what they're doing, and it sounds like they're saying they will continue to do that. So that seems to be counter to the deputation.
No, I think it's consistent. I think what the school
Because that's not saying it's exhausting.
The education department's not paying for the
No,
water for the school.
Yeah, that's the thing. So when they say the education department, I think this is the school. I mean, I don't know which buckets, but basically, collectively, they are doing work and have been doing work to prevent nesting sites and those sorts of things, and to do cleaning to try and remediate the damage that's caused. But that's extensive and expensive, and the funds that the school is putting in out of their own funds, you know, is being eaten up quite a lot. Now, I don't know whether the education department are going to try and supplement that or not. That's a degree of information I don't have.
And can I just ask you, Shiloh, what was the, you said shooting wouldn't solve it and other measures would need to be taken. Is that other extermination methods, or is there something else?
Removing of nests, removing
Okay.
of roosting spots, essentially everything that the other two pest control companies said when I spoke to them about it.
So does that mean effectively we don't own any of the properties other than our buildings that happens in? So when I walk down the main street and there's pigeons on pretty much all the buildings, they're not going to be able to do that
Correct.
without the owners of the buildings
Giving them authority to do so.
and paying for that to be done.
And plus, there's so many sheds and so many other input
Yeah.
places around the district where they just nest anyway and roost anyway. So it's,
I mean, obviously, this is only asking us to get the return of the result. So I'm just, that's what we're doing.
might as well just raise funds for the school to get drinking water, basically.
Right, so the recommendation, the council
Sorry, I
resolve,
didn't read that. Yes.
recommendation, the council resolves to receive and note the contents of this report, which is what we're doing at this
Yeah.
point. So
Oh,
mover, Neville, second to Luke. Does anyone else have any questions or?
I just reckon until they're gonna kill them or do something, you're gonna get nowhere, because it's been done before and they just come back. And on our farm, if one comes to our farm, we just shoot it straight away. We haven't got a problem. And I think people around here got to do the same, like, it's the only way you're gonna treat it, like. It's a hopeless situation. If they're not gonna kill them, well, what's the point?
The school was pretty distraught. I'd like to be able to help them, but if we can't get access there to cull them,
Yeah.
they've already put in measures, all the other measures. The last step for them to do is the culling.
Yeah.
If we can't help doing that, it's not really.
I would say now we've gone through the channel, well, yeah, we've gone through the channel that we're to go through, but I'll now take it as my responsibility as spokesman of the council. I'm going to go to the department and to Nick McBride, the local member, to see if they can't take our arguments elsewhere.
There's been a couple of other properties in town, I believe, that were giving maybe notices to clean up their act in regards to pigeons. Is there the option we could do that to the school and kind of force them to take some more action?
Yeah, as in, does a landscape act override no matter what the school's area says?
Well, that's certainly going to be my question, is going to be to the Department of Health, because it's a public health issue, which is why they're doing the water. And it'd be interesting conversation about which overrides who, health over education, education over health. Landscape is in DNWR. So I'm going to, Nick McBride, I think a local member is our best avenue, because he can knock on all those doors. And just, I'm not saying it's going to get anywhere, but we're going to try.
If everyone else in the town got rid of their pigeons and the school's not gonna, guess where they'll go?
But that's a big if.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, well, not everyone will.
Getting everyone to collectively do something like that is a pretty hard.
Not everyone's going to spend the money.
I think most people are pretty good, but there are a couple that have a problem. And if those few that are doing the right thing, sort out their thing, it will help the school, but they need to cull them.
Do you think it's best for me to go direct with those, or would it be better to send a letter, I guess, from the council, from the chamber,
Both.
asking? I'm just saying, technically, what's better, what's got more weight?
I would say do both, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'll put it in right, whether or not you want to have the meeting first and follow it up in writing, but I think both,
Yeah.
both would be useful.
All right, so we'll work on that. Do I need to do something through the chamber to resolve that?
Look, yeah, well, it wouldn't hurt. You've got it moved that, they receive a note of constant report. I mean, the
We had
mover, the mover and seconder might consent to another line.
Yeah.
That council, resolves to, right to,
to the relevant departments, which is 3.
Yep.
Yeah.
Expressing our disappointment and dissatisfaction at the outcome and what actions can be taken.
Health and safety of kids is well.
I mean, obviously you've got to come up with the words. but
Yeah.
to that,
outline the issue and seek, and it'll be something on the ones and seek,
You'll have all the right words for government.
and seek doing things.
Yeah, yeah. How do we get you to do something instead of saying no?
Yes.
We'll get Heather on board for the yes. That makes sense?
Oh, can you give me something to write there?
Yeah, we're going to put a second line on
Yep.
that. So 1, it'll be receive a note that contents report. 2 will be to send a letter to,
Do things and stuff.
Relevant departments and the local member outlining the issue and seeking, actions.
actions.
Actions to remediate the situation.
Actions to remediate actions. Yeah.
I'll get it.
You guys will sort it out. You sort.
Yeah, we agree with that anyway, don't we?
All right, so
Yeah, I
that's been agreed to and re-agreed to. All those in favour? Against? Carried, thank you. Righto, end of year closure 8.2, Tony Second.
Thank you. To the mayor, so to assist with end of year leave arrangements and resource planning, this report seeks council's endorsement of the proposed end of year closure dates for our various work teams. As you'd be aware that we've got a history of office closure between Christmas and New Year with last year's dates provided in the report. And then this year we propose that the admin and infrastructure team would finish work on Friday, 20th of December, returning on Thursday, the 2nd of January. So council offices and depots closed for 5 days, excluding public holidays, and we still have essential services through that period. For childcare staff, we've got a bit of a staggered approach between the 2 sites. That's mainly to do with swimming lessons that are held in each town, so we usually have lower numbers. So yeah, Mallycox Lameroo would finish earlier on Friday 13th, which coincides with the last day of school, reopening on Thursday 2nd of January. And then Mallycox at Pinaroo would finish the same time as admin and infrastructure team, and then they would go back on 13th of January. So I think it's pretty clean, straightforward.
So just clarifying, you said then that Lameroo Cogs would return on Thursday the 2nd, but Monday the 6th, as per the report.
Yeah, the wrong way around or something.
Just clarifying, is this correct here? Monday the 6th of January is when they'd return, because you just said Thursday the 2nd, of which I think was the previous one from the.
Yeah, it should be Thursday 2nd of
No,
January.
no, that's fine. So what you've written is right. Just what you said was different.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
that's
that's
cool.
right.
Apologies.
No, that's right. Just checking.
Returning the same time, yep. So from that, you've got the recommendations there. The council resolves to receive and note the contents of the report. To approve the council administration and infrastructure services team closure dates from Friday 20th of December, returning Thursday 2nd of January. And to approve Mallycox Lameroo staff closure from Friday 13th of December, returning Monday, Thursday, 6th of January. There it is, sorry. And to approve Mallycox Pinaroo staff closure from Friday 20th of December, returning Monday, the 13th of January.
Okay, can I have a mover, please?
Just make them work all the way through.
Yeah, I looked up.
Neville.
They've always had it.
Second, Chris Luke. No one want to speak to that? All those in favour? Against? Carried, thank you. 8.3, unsolicited proposal, Lachlan Miller.
Thank you through the mayor. Members, as you know, that usually under unsolicited proposals, they're dealt with in confidence, but I did actually get the consent of the applicant for this to be done in open session. And I was going to say, for anyone who's seen the local paper, it's on about 3 pages of the local paper, so it's hardly a confidential item. Nevertheless, the Lamoureux Sports Club which is currently looks after the majority of the site there on Butler Terrace. They are seeking to expand their facilities through a grant application for the Play Our Way grant, which is mostly seeking to increase the level of female participation and engagement in sport and recreation. So they are looking to do that. They need two things. They need a lease with council, and so we've been working on a lease on that site. Due to the need to get it in place fairly quickly, the lease that we're in the very final stages of negotiating will be for a 5-year period. And the reason why it's for a 5-year period, because if you run it for longer than 5 years, you need to get public consultation before you can sign off on it. We don't have enough time to do that. Nevertheless, once the heat of this issue has gone out, we can look to put in place a longer lease agreement and give them more security should they need that. With that lease in place, they then can, they're also seeking in principle landowner consent for the construction of the netball court and gym storage facility that they've got proposed, which you'll see in the attachments. And so that's obviously council is the landowner, so they're seeking that. Other than that, they're not asking for any money from council to contribute to this project yet. Continue. And I don't think there's actually much more I probably need to highlight there. So the recommendations are that council resolves to receive and note the contents of the report, to provide in principle endorsement as landlord for the establishment of the Mallee Community Movement Centre and Facility Development at the Lamoureux Sports Ground. And 3, to determine that the Mallee Community Movement Centre and Facility Development proposal will cease to be managed under the provisions of the unsolicited proposals policy and will, going forward, be managed under the provisions of the community facility lease between Lamoureux Sports Club Incorporated and council.
Thank you very much. So move it for that. Campbell, second, Luke.
I'll keep it in.
Yes, I want to speak to that.
Yeah, I've sort of wondered why we're going to develop another set of toilets. I don't know why we're not integrating it with another building that's already in the system. Why we're creating another structure there.
Well, I guess my response,
And that's to do like the whole planning of it.
my response to that would be we're not doing it, as in we don't own the facility. We're not building the facility, so we won't actually own the building. Lamoureux Sports Club will. So they're asking permission basically to put it on the grounds, which we do own, which is one of these complicated things.
Yeah.
They've looked at the existing buildings that are available in the town, but not at the sports ground, and believe there's none suitable. That doesn't solve building a new court. And I think the existing toilets that they're using in the swimming pool centre are incapable of handling the influx and constantly overflowing and getting backed up, to my understanding.
Yeah, through there, that's correct. But and also there aren't sufficient change facilities in that toilet block either. Yeah, that's right. It's lots of toilet blocks. Yeah, so there's not sufficient change facilities. And as you said, the other part, if you look in attachment 2, the design is to have spaces for indoor recreation like Pilates and all those sorts of things where they don't have an appropriate space either on that footprint or in the broader Lamoureux Township. So there's a number of things that they're trying to achieve through that development.
Is that, I mean, there's no real answer to you.
No, I just wonder why as a community, we're going to build another whole system where one's used in the summer and one's used in the winter. Why there's not planning to integrate the whole lot and still have a decent system.
Sorry, you've lost me there.
Well, summer times for swimming, winter times for netball. You know, we're going to recreate another set of buildings. Well, they are, but.
Well, really, the building at the pool doesn't have much capacity to.
Charging in that.
You could marginally do something with that, but I mean, the court and the gym part, you couldn't build back out into the car park because you'd lose that area. I think that's my understanding, but.
They also want a place for their gym stuff, so I guess, yeah, it's got to be indoors.
Right. Anyone else? No. All those in favour? Against? Carried, thank you. 8.4, elections, LGA president, representative members on the LGFA Board of Trustees and Murraylands Riverland Regional Grouping representatives to SARAC.
Thank you. Through the mayor, as the mayor's just summarised, there are 3 components to this. I think it's probably best to do each component separately. So within the report itself, you can see the, if I take the LGA president election, so LGA presidents come from the 2 groupings, the SAROC grouping and the GAROC grouping, SAROC being, easiest way to say it, is regional councils, GAROC being metropolitan councils, and the presidential terms are 2 years, and so they rotate who the president comes from for either the SAROC grouping or the GAROC grouping. This time around, it's the GAROC grouping, so it's the metro councils. You can see that there is 5 candidates. You heard from one of them tonight, and what council needs to do, or actually what they can do, is to determine which of those 5 candidates they wish to cast their vote for. You also could take the option of not voting for anyone. That's a matter for you. So it's probably good if I let you do,
I think
to work through, do number 1, to receive and note the report, but then do recommendation 2 to work out who you're going to cast your vote for, if you're going to cast the vote for all. And then part B of that is to authorise the mayor to mark the ballot papers, which we have sitting.
so probably what I like to do, and tell me if I'm doing it wrong, but I'd like to suspend with the leave of the meeting, suspend the meeting procedures so we can actually just talk about this thing in totality, because it's too big.
Yep.
Otherwise it'll get unwieldy.
Yep.
So do I have support of the chamber by show of hands to do that? Thank you. So suspended unanimously. So probably what I'll do is just speak to what I know and the conversations that I've had in meeting, not all of these people, but the ones that I have. I've had a good conversation with Heather Holmes-Ross, who presented there, and certainly she understands the huge disparity between metro and regional, and believes that the LGA isn't fulfilling its function of representing all councils equally and equitably, and using its power to actually achieve something. Now, whether a president can change that in 2 years, I doubt it, but she certainly wants to try. Conversation I had with Jane Lomax-Smith is she's got a long political history, having been a previous minister in Labor governments, and she's very articulate and a very educated person. She says that she understands our disparity, but I'll be fair and say when she said in the forum that it was in, that she thought the 30% per capita could change, but they might need 5 years to roll it out and to deal with that. When we showed that it was 0.2 of 1% of their total operating revenue, we didn't find that, I didn't find that a good answer in really genuinely understanding what we're about. Of the other 3, certainly for me personally, if I was asked to cast a vote for those 3, I wouldn't, for various reasons, but none that I can say are anything other than I appreciate the fact that Heather's spent a lot of time reaching out and trying to get feedback and converse. So for me, I appreciate that, and I have had a conversation with Claire and an email trail with her, but I'm not convinced that she really gets our peril and would be prepared to fight for us over what the metro is. And probably her job is not to do that. It probably is to represent the metros, to be fair, but I'm hoping the incumbent is prepared to battle, because currently the LGA's position was to support Alga's position, which was to continue beating their head against the wall for 1% FA grant funding, and the government and the opposition have both said that ain't happening. So I can't believe you would persist with an argument that you've been told clearly is not going to get anywhere. So that's my 5 cents worth on those. The LGFA Board of Trustees, I don't personally know any of those people. I would read through all of their things, and I would normally go with the financial ones of people with demonstrated good experience. So the people I wrote down for me personally was just the ones that had a lot of experience in the financial game, being that's what that is. They're our financier in essence. And for the SAROC groupings, there was 3 nominees. The current 2 nominees, which is Caroline and Paul. Paul from Coorong, Caroline from Corinda East Murray, and this time Simone Bailey has put her hat in the ring from Mid Murray. And certainly for my money, because of the amount of work that I can't even tell you how much work Simone puts into trying to battle, it is unbelievable. And so for me, because SAROC doesn't work, our representative groupings in LGA, which is SAROC, does not work. It doesn't, you can put a motion in and it doesn't mean it's ever going to get to a meeting. And if it does, it doesn't necessarily get through. There's a whole filtering system in there. The MRLGA grouping doesn't work because we're grouped with councils that really don't have anything to do with us other than Corinda in reality. So someone who's interested to at least investigate those and have a voice, a strong voice. So for me, it would be Simone and Caroline for those 2 reasons. Caroline is a similar council to us, Corinda East Murray. She has been quite vocal, but hasn't got very far. I think with good support, she could be, it would be a more powerful hammer within inside of SAROC and LGA to try and do that. And Caroline was elected by us in the MRLGA as our president again, so she's likely to be on the LGA board. Well, I think that automatically puts her on the board. So yeah, that's my 10 cents worth. It doesn't mean that's what you should think. It's just that's what I've learned through my travels. So anyone else is more than welcome to have their 2 cents on what they think or.
When I read of that first lot, it was very city focused.
Yeah.
All very clean green.
If you take 52 there, that Chris Hannah sort of says about small councils, really, if they get on page 52 about small rate payer based regional councils cannot simply fund some of these things they've got to do. And LGA should provide practical help for those, and then also having a go at the landscape levy where money's collected from that area and doesn't get spent back there, so it's spent somewhere else. And having a go at this thing we're looking at now where they said we're not viable, totally against that money spending on that. Example affecting every council is an imposition of the cost. Yeah, what's that one? Audit. And large metro councils already have an external audit, and the other ones haven't got one. So I just think that person's pushing for that to help to do things like that. So that's what I thought. That read fairly well. So yeah, I don't know. It's not so city based as some of the others. I think.
And just pay attention to the fact he was a state member of parliament. So
I realise that.
I like Heather Holmgroth went on a Zoom meeting with us. She seemed like she had some sensible things to say. Maybe the environmental things aren't as relevant to us, but she had a pretty good answer to Neville.
Absolutely.
I've met Jane Lomax Smith before. I don't think she's going to have anything relevant to do with us. I don't know any of the others. I like Caroline Phillips. I've met her a few times. The other guys I don't really know.
Any thoughts, David?
No, not really.
No, and you don't have, like, this is not a, to be honest, none of this is earth shattering. Like it's not going to change our world. I can guarantee you. But
Fill out the form and we're just not worried about it.
The better voice and support we've got is a help, but it's not going to change our world.
There was that guy from Tintinara in the late. Are we talking about the later ones as well, or just those folks for slide?
No, all of them.
All of them. Yeah.
Just discuss them because we'll deal with them one at a time.
Yeah,
We might as well talk about them while we're suspended. So which one are we talking about, guys?
Jonathan Peach. He comes from.
Let's see the LGFA. Oh no, he was on the first one. No,
He's down.
he was in the LGFA one. I
But
think.
Simone Barty, you've had a lot to do with Simone.
No, hang on, but we're jumping between. That was the LGFA.
Yeah, no, stick with the LGA to start.
Board nomination years.
Yeah, well, that was LGFA, so that's the Local Government Finance Association. So they're the ones that, we borrow money from them and they're supposed to look at, financial stuff. And they run, I think they fund the, what's the name?
Doesn't matter who we vote for, it wouldn't be shit anyway.
Oh, the really
Yeah.
well, they get that much money into that.
Yeah.
Completely bent us over all the time.
We've got to have someone to stand up for us.
Remember with,
Yeah, well, I'm happy with that. The ones that talk to us anyway.
Yeah.
Heather.
Well,
anything with you, Luke?
Hey,
Anything strongly in your mind?
as long as it's not the one solar power before.
That's Heather Holmes.
Yeah, yeah.
You don't like it?
No,
No, she's a bit of a good on me.
she's a lefty man.
No, I didn't, even though she focused on was real reaction, I think some of these other reads are better than that, but yeah, that's my opinion.
Well, I guess when it comes to it, I guess the thing is going to be who are we going to vote? So we have a choice, as Lachlan said, on all of these. It's going to be, are we voting for anybody? And if we are authorising me to mark a ballot paper, and I think CEO and the delegate to lodge a ballot paper. So there's multiple things. Trevor, any thoughts?
Yeah, once you made the effort to present to us. And Neville mentioned that they had issues that concern us a fair bit.
But that's the same thing. That one that's presented to us and this Chris Hannah, they're the same.
Yeah, in the same one.
They're both the LGA president.
Sounds the best.
One of them, yeah.
Yeah, the worst.
Yeah.
Not the worst. Chris Hammond.
Well, when I read that Chris Hanna one, I thought it was very city focused, so yeah.
All right. What I'm going to do is the one person that's got probably the broadest knowledge of some of the candidates would be Lachlan. And even though he's not part of the chamber, I think he is, being our CEO, gives us advice. So I'd ask him to weigh in and give us his thoughts.
Okay, thank you, through the mayor. So in relation to the LGA president, I know of all of the candidates except for Mayor Coxon, so I can't make commentary on him. I just don't know. I think one of the really important things that the LGA president has to do is liaise with state government and federal government to the degree that they're able to, and to be able to speak well in public forums and in the media about local government issues. Now, I share the pessimism, perhaps of others, that when you are getting a candidate from the Garrett grouping, they're going to be very metro focused, and you could equally say the Metropolitan Council's probably lament when the LGA president is coming from the Sarok grouping, because they'll be very rural focused. Nevertheless, this is the pool, and as I said, I think that being able to articulate the issues of the councils, assuming that they can get across what the issues of the council are, is absolutely fundamental to being an effective president. So from that point of view, I think probably Lord Mayor Jane Lomax-Smith is probably the most proven effective person at that sort of media and government liaison presence. I can't speak to her ability to
shift or argue,
understand and articulate rural council issues, but certainly she would have I believe she'd have the best ability to put forward the sector's perspectives and get some traction. In relation to the
Who'd be second?
We only got to have one though.
No, he's looking for choice.
Don't flip flop.
He's looking for a 1 to 5 ranking.
Yeah.
No, I think we've got to be.
I just want to know who's second.
We've got to be fair to.
Yeah,
I probably won't provide a second.
We've got to be fair to the CEO, because ultimately he's moving on, and he's going to be, who knows where he's going to be looking to work and whatever. So
I mean, I can say that they are all effective mayors in their own way. They're all experienced and effective mayors, but as I said, my criteria for LGA president is how do they project outwards and upwards. That's the most important thing, which is why I said, I believe that the Lord Mayor is able to do that. In relation to the LGFA candidates, I do know 2 of them. Again, that's not making any commentary on the others, but I have sat on the East Waste Board with Grant Pickett for a number of years. He's, in my experience, a very sharp operator. And I certainly know of Michael Sedgman, who was the CEO of Murray Bridge and is now the CEO of Adelaide City Council. Again, a pretty sharp operator. And I'd say between both of them, understand finances very well, but also understand the sector quite well. Again, that's not speaking ill of the others. I just don't know the others to have a view on. And in relation to the Sarok membership, I share pretty much the same views as the Mayor. I think Mayor Bailey has done over and above effort in terms of trying to articulate, as has our mayor, identify and articulate the challenges of small councils, small geographically diverse councils. And then if you're looking for a second candidate who probably would be more akin to the issues that we have, then yes, it probably would be Mayor Phillips from Karoonda, but equally Mayor Simmons is on our border. He is he comes from a primary production background. He certainly knows primary production politics quite well. So he's a reasonable candidate too. So certainly I'd say Mayor Bailey. Between the other two, I probably don't have a preference. They bring different skills and different perspectives to the role.
I just thought
Any assistance?
Simmons might have a bit more clout than what Carol's got. That's all I thought. So.
To date, it would seem, it's not about clout, but to date, it would seem that he's been less vocal inside of Sarrock. Caroline has been.
Yeah, okay.
That's the feedback. Now, whether that's true, whether I'm not casting any aspersions, I don't know. But that's the feedback I've been given is Caroline has tried to run things up the flagpole and hasn't always had second there. So, but I think either would be fine because Simone is going to run them up on her own.
Yeah.
She's going to get in there and blow it up. So I think while we are out of this, let's so we're not dithering when we get into it. So what do we think? I mean, obviously that's a different view, and I appreciate Lachlan's got that first-hand knowledge.
You've both got a vote though, haven't you?
No, I don't. It's only-
We have the vote.
Council's got a vote.
I
thought it's the.
No, it's up to us. No, it's up to us. All this is authorising is who fills out the paper. So it's like, so I agree with what Lachlan has said with Lord Mayor. She certainly is a mega articulate. That's been her life. She's a politician. My question was her ability to get, to challenge, but certainly from that perspective, she is the one that will articulate it the best.
Does she understand what we?
She has said she does. But at the end of the day, as I said previously, I don't think either of those are going to have a massive influence on us because our particular issues aren't going to be ones that are at the top of their voice. But I guess if we can get her on board, there's a positive and a negative. She's the most articulate. She's got a path into the government if she wants to use it. And so then that's the positive. The negative would be, so does she really want to upset them and push too hard, or does she just play the game? And politics is a game. So that's my reservation. Whereas maybe a less articulate but more passionate person like me, you just sort of go in and bang your head against the wall and have a crack. So that to me is the two judgments. And I think of those, not everyone is a fan of Heather Holmes-Ross either by any stretch of the imagination, and as is the case in here. But I'm of the view too, at least she made the biggest approach to try and understand. That's my view. So who would you go? I'm just going to write down that. I'm just going to do it as if it was a vote.
Heather Holmes-Ross, I guess.
One,
But not by a lot, but I wouldn't go Jane Lomax. I think Adelaide Socialite has got under the last
David.
Probably Heather Holmes-Ross.
Holmes-Ross.
David. Neville.
I would have went for either.
No, but go who you want. Now, right, your number
Jane
next.
Smith.
Righto, one, yeah.
I will abstain.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, they had that lady.
Okay. Well, then that, regardless of what I say, that's already 3-1. So when it comes time, we'll nominate Heather. And we can do the other bit when we get there. LGFA Board of Trustees. So again, we've heard what Lachlan said, and at least he knows some of them because I got no idea. I just went on their bios.
Grant.
I mean, I would be more than happy to go with Lachlan's recommendations because he knows them. I was already on Michael Sedgman anyway because I know of him from Bridge. So I was keen on him. And Grant Pickett, if he's a good option, I don't mind. Do you have any?
No, I don't know anything about these guys.
No, neither do I.
No, Sedgman now and thing it's all.
So you'd be happy with Sedgman Pickett? Yeah. All right, so let's do that. Are you happy with that, Charlie? Yep. So Sedgman and Pickett. We'll do this officially in a minute. I just want Miles will get it sorted. And Sarrock. So I guess thoughts?
Yeah, I'm happy with Simone Bailey and
Yeah.
Caroline Phillips.
Okay, David?
Yeah.
Neville?
Or Simone and Paul Simmons.
Yeah, same. Yes, yeah, Simone and Caroline.
Okay. Trevor?
Yeah, mine's Simone and Simmons.
Simmons? Well, geez, now it is up there, isn't it? It's a 3-3, she's a tie. And then if I say it's a tie, so then we don't go anywhere. Look, if that's the case, I'll go with Caroline because it makes it so we've got a decision, otherwise we don't have a decision.
Yeah.
And without Chris here, we don't have a tiebreaker, so, because I'm it. All right, so we'll go with Simone and Caroline. Okay, in that case, with the leave of the meeting, come back out.
No, you can just declare the.
I declare the suspension's over for the 2 minutes that we're in it, and we'll come back to the meeting. I might as well just read them out. So, 1, council resolves that the contents of the report be received and noted. I can latch that up with 2, can't I? Or do I do that separately?
No, I think you can do it all together now.
I'll do it all together.
You think you know what you're
Okay.
gonna put.
All right, we're going to do them all with 1 now, right? So 2, that in relation to the LGA president election, cast its vote for Mayor Heather Holmes-Ross. To authorise the mayor to mark the ballot paper reflecting the council's determination and authorise the CEO or the delegate to lodge the council's ballot paper. 3, that in relation to the LGFA board trustees election, cast its votes for Michael Sedgman and Grant Piggott. If you've got there. B, to authorise the mayor to mark the ballot paper reflecting the council's determination, authorise the CEO or the delegate to lodge the ballot paper. And 4, that in relation to the Sarrock, Murraylands and Riverland grouping election, cast its votes for Simone Bailey and Caroline Phillips. To authorise the mayor to mark the ballot paper reflecting the council's determination, authorise the CEO or the delegate to lodge the ballot paper. Do I have a mover, please? Luke, seconder, Trevor. I don't think we need to talk about it now. All those in favour? Against? Carried, thank you. Sorry to make that so painful for all the school members. Righto, 8.5, council and committee resolution implementation status report.
Through the mayor, this is your regular report, setting out the status of the resolution we have resolved since the election. So,
Take it as read,
yep, unless there's any queries,
we get to ask them anyway. So you can read out.
oh, sorry. So the recommendation is that council resolves to 1, receive and note the contents of the report, and 2, determine that the resolutions identified in attachment 1 as completed have been accomplished and no further status reports will be provided on those resolutions.
Neville, please. Neville, seconder David. Does anyone want to speak to that? All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Notice of motions, 9.1. Community meetings, councillor Ron Valentine. Motion that the council resolves to endorse the mayor and the CEO meeting with multiple community groups and venue users across the district to discuss current and future needs, infrastructure viability and rationalisation. My rationale for that, as written down there, is there's significant need for council to deal with non-performing assets whilst identifying those which can and should be supported and developed into the future. It is clear that we can't keep everything, but it is vitally important we meet with the affected groups and users to seek direct input and involvement into decision making. Rate income is precious and in high demand, so we must do all we can to ensure the best use of the most precious resource. And I think that is really the rationale, but I guess the point of bringing it through the chamber is so that we can, wanting to meet with multiple groups. And if I use halls and kitchens, which is a topical conversation at the moment, it's wanting to bring together the users of both halls, both sports grounds, to talk about, should there be only one kitchen, and if so, where should it be? As an example, commercial quality kitchen, I mean, not a little kitchen. So that's the point of it, to try and get feedback to bring to the chamber. It's not decision making. It's not me going out and saying this is what we will do. It's trying to get feedback from them as to what they think and what's palatable to them. So that's all I'll say on it. So obviously I'm moving it, and question is, do I have a seconder? Luke, does anyone want to speak to that?
Yeah, some of those meetings I'd probably like to go to, especially because it says here, options discussed are highly likely to go beyond resolved positions. I think if interested councillors wanted to go and be a part of them, it wouldn't be a bad thing.
It says in there that something about that, so I'd rather let Lachlan answer it because you spoke about what that would involve, putting it into the meeting.
Yes, okay, yeah, okay, through the mayor, thank you for that.
Which
So-
doesn't mean it can't happen, by the way, it's just. okay,
Yeah, so if there is a meeting that either I call or council calls, and to be honest, mostly it'll be if the mayor and I are going to meet with a group or whatever, I'll call the meeting. Or I'll arrange the meeting. That may come here, we may go there. If one council member attends, being the mayor, that's fine. It doesn't trigger the provisions of the informational briefing sessions. If more than one council member attends, it does trigger those provisions, which mean we then need to advertise the meeting, hold it in a public place, put it on our website and that sort of stuff. That's not a reason not to do it. But that's the formality that has to go around it if more than one council member is invited to one of those meetings.
I
So
think that's probably a good thing, gives, if we advertise and stuff, gives anyone who's actually interested in the community a chance to come along and.
I'm not saying this about, I'm just look, I'll say one more thing. Both the mayor and I already have within our roles, the mayor under section 58, me under section 99-ish, roles about meeting with community groups to discuss, community members to discuss issues. So those things are happening a lot. The idea of this, and I spoke with the mayor about this, is to get council's acknowledgement that these things actually are happening. And there will be, I agree, there will be issues where if a large cohort of people are brought together, that council members probably should and would want to attend. But I'm not sure where that threshold will sit necessarily, and I'm not sure exactly what sort of notification we could provide to say we're going to meet. So, if we're going to meet with 2 people at the Mallee Tourist and Heritage Centre, for example, would the council members want to know that?
Probably not that one, no.
I'm just trying to use that as an example.
Yeah.
I don't know what the threshold would be. If using the mayor's example, if we're going to say we're going to bring all the users of all the facilities that have kitchens in them to have a discussion about kitchens, I would say, yeah, that's probably one where we would organise a proper thing to get everyone together, and yeah, maybe that would be an informational briefing session potentially. I can understand. I can see the extremes of both, where you definitely wouldn't and you definitely would. It's hard where the middle ground sits about when you would notify council members and potentially hold an informational briefing session. So I'm not trying to be difficult. That's a little bit difficult from my graduation.
From my perspective, I would put in that I think there's absolutely a place for it once we get to a certain point, and that is at the beginning. Trying to get these meetings to happen can be really difficult. Like we've been trying with Perilla now for probably 3 months to get this meeting to happen. If I use this hall example one again, or the kitchens, if we can get together the first meeting, and it might only be with half a dozen people, if the result of that is that there is going to be open communication, there is dialogue, and there is something to look at and head to, I absolutely think that should then become an informational briefing session and invite other people in. But the point of this is to try and get the key people who are doing the work and having the events and organising the things to be the ones with the first opinion. And then if they want to do something collectively different or bigger, then we bring in the broader community for a general opinion. But my concern is trying to open up, and that's what I've said to all these groups when I've met with them about their issues, to say at the beginning, we'll focus on you because you're the ones using this issue. So Perillians for Perilla. And then if that develops into something else, then it's got to go to, because we wouldn't be able to do anything without going to public consultation anyway, without resolutions coming through council and without those things. But I just reckon the first step needs to happen first before you get to the second step. But then absolutely there's a path to bring it in.
These are pretty big things we're going to be discussing, and like I'm going to have a different viewpoint than David. David's got a different viewpoint to Neville, I think.
But I just think you've got to have a starter discussion first and then go from there. I thought this is just a starter and then after that, you bring it, whatever
That's what
comes
it
out, then you bring to the council to, and we can have stuff. But I think you just got to have starter discussions to start with.
A lot of the little things like I wouldn't worry about, but some of the bigger ones like around meeting halls.
Yeah, well, that will
things like
happen
that.
afterwards, I think, but you've got to have a starter
Yeah,
discussion.
nothing will, absolutely. I mean, these are
Just a start.
These are discussions. A lot of what I do is trying to get people to talk about what the future looks like to them so that we don't end up what we did again this year, which for the second annual business plan and budget cycle in a row, we've gone in and then pulled things out and changed funding and that because we're not in a command of enough detail about kitchens was the one in this one.
Yeah.
So this is about trying to have the conversations
Have a
with
starter
the people
discussion,
at the beginning and then bring in everybody because we can't, I'm not empowered to make decisions like that anyway and
No.
wouldn't even try to.
No, that's right.
Can we like identify which meetings you plan to have and then
That's the problem. Like some of these meetings could be called at like,
Oh, you just, yeah,
Like I say,
sometimes it's just an opportunity. You're walking down the street and you see somebody. I wonder if Joe Bloggs is, I mean, most of them are going to be bigger than that. Like I say, I've been trying now to actually get, we've had, I don't know how many dates.
I think three that I'm aware of.
They're problematic to get going sometimes because I've used the saying somewhere else. People will often galvanise for a fight, but when you're trying to actually get them together for proactive conversation before you ever get to that point, it's really quite difficult at times. So, you know, I could let you know, hey, we're going to do this meeting and just one more person into that thing, oh, I can't do this date. Next minute, that one goes out and we have another date and that one goes out. It really, and literally.
can we just say that, hey, we're going to do this meeting about pulling that building down? That'll get everyone there.
that's the other thing, if we have a formal briefing session about this meeting, about whatever issue it is, and the people don't come, they don't have their say, whether we've got a recorded thing that happened, said, look, this was your opportunity to come and talk about it. You didn't come here and do it.
Yeah, I guess I'm trying to do my role in a way that's as inclusive and well proactive. So my idea of public consultation isn't we put it in a newspaper, we advertise a meeting, you didn't come, stiff shit, we're going to do your thing. Not that we could anyway. I'm very much about going and talking to them, eating the sandwiches that you don't want to eat sometimes because of the content of not the sandwich. I'm literally, figuratively, not literally.
I guess if we're not advertising these, how do we know we're getting all the key stakeholders? Like just because the people we talk to invite, you know, their mates who are involved with it too, and they give you their opinion, that might not be the full opinion of everyone in
But
the
if,
community.
yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say, Campbell, is if that forms the initial opinion of those people, and we're not going to go and get unrelated people, like the people that don't do those things, that's only going to lead in something significant like those kitchens or halls or whatever, that's going to lead into bigger things and it will only inform. But what I would then expect is that I would have the members of that meeting come along and be part of that with councillors and whatever and have the bigger discussion.
Yeah.
If it's something significant like a hall or whatever, then you absolutely have to have that because they're massive decisions, but they're ones that have got to start somewhere. So that's, yeah. David?
Yeah, I was just thinking if there was something at Geranium, I'd probably need to be there. Like, as Campbell was saying, like maybe not as an elected member, and you go as not an elected member and just be there.
Don't believe so.
No, you can't really take your elected member hat off and be at something that's, you know, would qualify as, like I said, there's nothing wrong with holding an information briefing session. You know, there are some legislative hoops that we will jump through, but you don't need to worry about that. We will make sure that that happens. You know, that we can do that. That's not hard to do.
You'd inform me of the history of that meeting, is that what you're saying?
No, in terms of if more than one member was invited to a meeting or whatever, we would do the things that we need to do to satisfy the legislative obligations to notify it and to make sure it's open to members of the public and that sort of stuff. We can do that. I said I don't want that to be seen as a reason not to do anything. We can take care of that. But just saying that is the reality of when there is a meeting called that I call or council calls it, and more than one council member attends.
Right, I'm just because I'm a member of the Geranium Community Hub.
Like some of
I'm
the
a
things with
community
these
member.
things, I'm probably
I'd probably have to be
I
there.
have to be there anyway.
Yeah, you may have to be. And then look, so to put it, so we can put this to bed, is that you'll recall, because you were there prior to being on council, when the school closure was happening at Geranium, there was talk about the community wanting to take the facility. I didn't call the meeting, the community hub did, but I encouraged them to get everyone they could possibly get there to be involved with that meeting. So I couldn't have been, there was only Neville and I on council at the time, couldn't have been any more inclusive with the whole community because it was a big thing.
Yeah, it's 40.
So I wasn't out there running a lone wolf show on behalf of the council. I was making sure that everyone could have a voice. This is the same, and I guess by bringing this in, what we're trying to say is, look, we're out there doing this stuff, and it was really, and we'll continue to do it. And I would have had, Jesus, I don't know, 30 plus meetings with various people to talk about their situation, and most of them don't end up in a decision or anything we've got to bring to council. If it does, it will be elevated
If
to
you
that.
had a meeting with the Drayton Community Hub, I am a member of the Drayton Community Hub.
But you wouldn't be there.
You got to go to it because
No,
I'm a
because you're a
council
councillor.
I think we kind of need maybe a list of the meetings you're planning. And
Yeah, I
some
don't know what they are.
of them might be okay, yeah, off you go. Some of them we might need to do the next higher step, I think.
Yeah. That's fine. You can have that too. I mean, all I would say is if it ever gets to that, then people need to respond and be a bit quicker about what's coming back as well, because this is not my life. This is part of my role. So, but I accept that view. But I would say I will never have anything significant. It'll never get anywhere without the involvement that's due at the time that it's due. But you've got to start with a conversation.
No, I agree. I think you just have to start a little get together and then you have a meeting afterwards. You formulate, you're gonna have a meeting later, you do it. But I think you just rather drag everyone along, you just have a discussion with whoever you're doing and decide what you're gonna do. And most of the time would be to have a meeting later on. So I think rather than drag everyone in, I think it's better you two just do it.
So Parakeet Hall, you'd be on that committee, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I wouldn't have to be there.
Talking about the Parakeet Hall getting knocked.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter, like.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Who would go to the meeting? It's only you and.
Well, just- no,
But I think, hang on, because we are being televised, let's not, let's not be sensationalistic. We're not an American election at the moment. We're talking about democracy working. This is about initial discussions about things that we are already making decisions on. And this is about, this is the example given was about kitchens and halls. We've already changed decisions twice now on some of those things. And this is about trying to bring the parties together for an initial discussion of how do you see the lay of the land? What do you think? What do you want? Because I'm constantly getting message from people about what they want individually, and it's about bringing them together. If there is a common view amongst them and it looks like there's going to be progress, there's going to be something happen. That's the trigger I would use in my own head to say, right, now we need to elevate this, because everything I do would have Lachlan there, and I don't have these meetings on my own. I wouldn't try. There would always be the CEO there because that's right and proper. They should be there. So it is a formal way of controlling it.
I'd only have the chairman and the secretary. That's all I'd have. And then you have like have something.
You're talking about a hall getting knocked down, which is what was just said. I mean, that is like we are 50 steps down a road that we're talking about step one.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, no, but we just got to be careful because people hear that and next minute they go, who's knocking down what hall?
No, it's just baby steps to start with here.
Luke, and then
I'm not a micromanager, so I'm more than happy for you to get conversation kicked and started.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's the beginning, and I think Campbell's concerns will be taken up with every step
Later on. Yeah, that's right.
I will certainly commit in my post that as soon as I feel there's something to take to a next step, it will be taken. It will never be me just out there solo flying.
Yeah.
All right. In that case, we've got a mover and a seconder. So all those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. 9.2, road usage survey. This feeds into today's stuff. So council resolved to undertake a project to capture and analyse road usage data by the primary production community utilising an Excel-based survey tool. In other words, an Excel sheet I made up at home because I couldn't find a better way of doing it. And that's a behemoth of a thing. Rationale. Council is aware we do not have enough funds to maintain the road network with the ever-increasing load and variety of vehicles utilising it. What we don't know is what the load actually is, which parts of the network are under the most stress and when. Without this data, it is impossible to properly plan and budget. This seems the most cost-effective and direct way to gain this knowledge. I will offer to visit any farmer who needs help completing the spreadsheet, and I will suggest we would start with a small sample group to ensure the form works as expected, and then once confirmed, send it out to the district. I'll assume that people have read through the responses from the administration. So, yeah, I mean, we've talked about it a lot today, and to me, you can't manage what you don't measure, and we've got to start from step one. I did invest, this goes back to a motion way back, which was to survey farmers, and part of that would have been a little bit of this work. So this is kind of just saying, look, it's time to do something, and there's no other viable economical way. But noting that in administration's response, if we were to do this, there is an input on their side of the fence, because I can't do it outside of council's website, which I would love to do if I could, but I can't. I'd be more than happy to do it at home on my computer, but I don't think I'm allowed to. So, yeah, there will be an input, and I guess we would then have to, all this decision would be yes or no, we want to do that, and then it would be up to the administration to flash that out as to what that looks like and what it means, I guess.
Well, if it's council's resolution to do that, then we would reprioritise what else we're doing to support that being put in place.
So that's what it is. So I'm moving it. Do I have a second there? Luke? And does anyone want to speak to that?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I think that there's going to be a high level of bias with it, like getting people to fill out their own forms. Like if I've got a road where I think I'm paying too much rates, I'm probably going to say, no, I'm not using it that much.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what
Or maybe I am.
Would that be-
Or if I want the road upgrade, I'm saying, oh, I'm smashing that all in.
Yeah. I'm hoping that with having enough communication, I've certainly been going out for 2 years now, to the point of some people saying enough already. Trying to make people aware of the situation we're in, and certainly the larger producers who are the ones more likely to do that. I think they all are pretty clear on the state of where we're at. So hopefully that's not the case, but yes, it is possible. Absolutely. Eventually road counters would be it would be great if we had this intel otherwise, but we don't.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I was wondering if people will be honest about filling it out, or whether everyone will fill it out.
Maybe not, don't know.
Just get a sample.
All you can do is, from my point of view, all I can do is offer my time to try and make it happen, because
It's worth a try.
we're buggered without this data.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. At least you get to know what people are planning out in future, and that gives you an idea which roads are going to be used the most. So I think it's a good idea.
Is it talking about future use as well? Or
Yes.
Yeah, it will be
Yes.
future
Yeah.
use.
Yeah.
That's what it's talking about.
I mean, yeah, I'm happy to, I'll email you around the thing. It basically says, who are you? What properties do you own? What roads are they on? Which roads do you use to enter your property? What do you do on that property? Broadacre, this, that, and the other. What input loads do you have? So it's only talking about weights. I don't care about
tonnage.
values and that. What tonnages, what type of vehicles, what time of year? What do you harvest? What tonnages, what time of year? Where are you taking it? Is it going to your farm? Is it going to market? What roads does it use to get to those places?
Yep.
And for some places, this is going to be like 40 properties you're going to be answering that. That's what I say, the big load of it is going to be from less than 20 people. But it's asking all those questions: how many ute trips a day to use, what sort of, to the property a year, what sort of vehicles, tractors, trucks, all that sort of stuff. It's a piece of work, but I did ask a couple of the bigger players, would they be happy to do it? And they said, absolutely. If that's going to help you understand what our usages are and help you with the network, they're on board to do it, put their people behind it.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. Like it.
Yeah, and I think you've got to do it, but what the response is and whatever is debatable.
I think the hardest ones is going to be, Joe Blogg's out in the back box, he's not really literate, and so it's got nothing to do with me. And that's fine, if that's the case. But
And people on clay-based roads might say they run other things.
and I'm happy, and I'll go sit with people, and we have intel to go with it as well. So
Yeah, you can look at the you can go.
Yeah.
That's their farm.
Yeah. Cool.
So are you allowed to sit with people if it's
One-on-one.
through council?
One-on-one.
Yeah. With this resolution, this gives me the authority, power, whatever you want to call it. It's saying, one, about using council resource to get it up on the web page and get it sorted out to a basic level.
And do postage and those sorts of
Yeah.
things too. Once it's been trialled,
Yeah.
to do some postage to people, let them know.
Because the way for this to go, it has to go out in the mailbox drop to basically to everybody. Because it's the only way we're guaranteed that it gets to the farmers.
Yeah.
And I went to the Lamerwood Post Office to ask what that looks like in our district. And yes, there's a figure quote in here. There's still a disparity between the two, but we've also got to produce the piece of paper to encourage them to do it. And then me offer to go out and see them. Yeah. Cool. All those in favour? Against? Carried, thank you. 9.3, Notice of motion, lease of Lameroo Caravan Park. Motion that council resolves to call for expressions of interest to lease the Lameroo Caravan Park facilities, including a preferred option to develop cabins on the site. Rationale, there's a significant community interest in seeing the park further developed to include cabins. With the current lease expired and council's inability to fund such development, it seems natural to seek expressions of interest from the market in the hope of increasing accommodation availability whilst generating a commercial return on a public asset. I'd probably further that to and taking into account the administration's response. If you put out an expression of interest, you can either do it by, you know, detailing exactly what you want and what you expect and how you want to go about it, and that's quite lengthy. And particularly if certain people write it, it's gonna cover every base and not have any risk associated at all. Or, in my view, you can go out with a basic, hey, we've got this thing and we're interested to find out if anyone's interested in leasing it or developing it, and let them come to you with what their thing is. Because then you've got something to consider or nothing to consider. You might get no responses, you might get 10, who knows? And based on the responses, then you can decide how much effort you've got to put into due diligence and writing your things to go further or no. Worth noting in the response that there is, whilst there's no current lease on it, there was a lease arrangement which has expired but is still operating, in which case what it says in the report here is that there may be considerations with that need to be taken into considerations. They may have some rights and, you know, claims within that because they've had an ongoing operating situation, even though it's without a lease. My motivation is that lease doesn't return anything to the public, and there's no development plan for it. So it seems to make sense to see if that's possible.
Give it a try.
The other point in the report was back from administration. Once it comes back from the minister and once we have the next stage done, which may take 6 months or 2 years, we would be in a position that one of those things could be selling it if we wish to. But my position at the time was that it's unlikely we would want to sell the public asset. It's rather we would want to get a return off of it and have it be more than what it is now. So that's my viewpoint and my rationale. So I'll move it. Do I have a seconder? Neville? I saw him lifting his arm. Anyone want to speak to it, Campbell?
It's just leasing it, you're unlikely to get many quality options of people developing permanent cabins on site. I think if anyone wanted to build permanent cabins, would probably want to buy it.
Could be a 50-year lease, eh?
Could be. Yeah. I think it's a good idea getting some money for it or developing the piece of land there.
And to me, that may be something someone comes in and says, look, I'd love to put this, that, and that, but I'll only do it if I can buy it. In which case, at least we know and we can say, okay, that's a considered option. We've got to wait a couple of years or whatever time it takes. Yeah, lease to buy or, yeah. Valid point though.
Just with the administration's response there, not absorbing significant senior resources, are you saying that the administration doesn't really have the time at the moment?
Not at the moment.
Well, through the mayor, if I can. Just to be clear, when I wrote the response to this was before Monday. So yes, so in answer to your question, yes, depending on what it looked like. So if I've got clearly you can see from the response, I've got concerns of going out to the market with a completely open-ended thing, because while it enables a whole lot of different responses to come in, what might come in might be incredibly unwieldy and difficult to deal with and difficult to progress. So that was one concern. So then, right the other way, and as you'll see in the other additional analysis, generally speaking, again, I'm a bureaucrat. When governments go out for expressions of interest, they tend to be very clear about what they're seeking. They don't do open-ended, tell us whatever fairy tale you want to tell us. So it takes resources. So basically what this looks like is it takes resources either to develop what I'll call a robust expression of interest document to begin with, which I don't have spare senior resources to do, or potentially going with the open-ended thing. When it comes in, it'll take a fair bit of resource to try and make some sense out of what you may or may not get. Now, all of that, though, was, when I wrote that response, was me being here because I will probably be doing it. As of mid-December, I won't be here. It would then fall to Shiloh. Shiloh has a range of annual business plan and projects and resolutions that are currently filling his dance card a fair bit. And so this will add to it. There'll need to be some reprioritisation.
Fire inspections at that time of the year.
Yeah, all right. That's to answer your question is believe me, I'm 100% behind doing something with that caravan park and getting the current arrangements completely unsatisfactory. So I'm very much about there needs to be something done. It's the resources required to make something happen in the relatively short term that concern me.
And if I could just add to that, because I always do, is that we're better off to resource something when and if it comes in than to put the resource up front and then have nothing come in, either because you've scared the hell out of them or because we've got to understand where we are. We're not Mitcham with some grandiose thing happening where we're here. And the reality is if it's, closed on the 13th of December, there's a good chance we can get a contractor to do it for us. But it could be, including that might get outsourced and funded as part of the EOI that comes in, if it comes in at all. That's my view on it, that we just don't know if we wait now for a perfect time, well, bolt up and give it to the next council because we're not having this to. And you've just got a resource sitting there, not returning anything, no current lease. We don't want to go and put a current lease on it that potentially still not going to return anything and then lock it up so that you can't put it out to somebody else.
Yeah, something's supposed to happen to it years ago and it's never happened. This is the first time something's going to happen. So, time.
I don't think we'll get more than 2 or 4 responses to it anyway.
Yeah, and look, I've had outside people tell me that they believe there will be reasonable response, like operators of significance that might be interested. But if they are, they're also going to have some pretty predetermined, precast propositions that they would put in for this sort of thing. But you never know. So far, everything went to nothing when we actually said something could happen. So anyway, that's where it is. Anyone else?
No, I think guys will start somewhere. Like, if you can't process the 15, you might be able to process 2.
Yeah.
The best too.
Well, and that was, I'm sorry, I shouldn't be going backwards and forwards, but that was one of the things Lachlan said is, if you get to that point, just having an assessment panel and the structure of that in itself is something that needs to be planned and organised and not ad hoc, because it's not a private business, it's public asset, public money, like it has a whole thing. But if that number came in, I would say we would have to generate a response then, but who knows when that is and who's here and how we're doing that. It may just be, what, it's got to go inside this funded to happen. All right, all those in favour? Against? Thank you very much. Carried. 10 questions on notice, don't have any. 11 questions without notice. I'll acknowledge, righto. 12 confidential items. I looked around. 12 confidential items, 12.1 plant procurement grader. So recommendation that we have to go into confidentiality or confidence.
So through the mayor, Katrina, did you particularly want to stay and be added to the order or not?
Oh, I can.
I think
Second meeting.
yes, we do. She's not going home. She's just not sitting in the room for this one. Because when we wrote this up, I didn't know we were going to be having a special council afterwards. So just want to make sure the order's right. I'm totally this way. Just needs to be.
This is the last thing that's coming.
We're not streaming anymore.
No, we need to do a mover and second.
Okay.
Okay, we go to confidence.